Yeah. So, hi everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Hi everybody. This is Belle with Pop Culture Uncovered, and I'm here with Allie. Say hi.
Hi, Allie.
Ron is already shaking his head. We haven't even, we haven't even started yet, and Ron is already shaking his head. So, as you may have noticed, Allie and I are not in the same place because we are doing a drunk review, social distancing edition. So to prove that we are drinking, I have this, and Allie has her alcohol up, and we are going to do a spoiler heavy. So if you haven't seen it, go to the website and read my spoiler-free review of Hunters. I finished it a month ago, and Allie just finished it up, and immediately, which is the most hilarious part to me, immediately sent me a message going, "Oh my God!" And I'm like, exactly. So we're just going to get into it. First of all, what did you think of the show overall?
So, who doesn't love a show or a movie about killing Nazis? It was highly entertaining. I enjoyed all of the characters, including the villains. The entire storyline has so many twists and turns in it. It was really like I couldn't stop watching it. And I have plenty of time to binge watch right now, so it was great. But I did have to watch it like every 4 episodes, take a break and watch a comedy just because of how heavy some of it was. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely some comical aspects throughout the show, and just straight off the bat there was a reference to Star Wars and things of that matter, just the time period that it's in. So I loved it, but I definitely had to take breaks here or there.
One of the things I definitely, how do we do? I feel like we would watch an episode and just take 15 minutes to do something else or watch something of a completely different nature because the show could be intense. And from episode one, they went hard. Like there was no filler. First episode in, it went hard, and then every time you thought, oh, it can't possibly get worse, it did. Something else insane happened. And so it was like, yeah, I had the same thing. We did the take a 15 minute to an hour break and just either do or watch something else. I don't know if we could have mainlined it like 4 episodes in a row because I think it would have been too much. So kudos to you because I don't think I could have been able to do that. The other thing
You
I really like,
underestimate me and my binge-worthy
that's
experiences.
true.
Maniacal laugh.
That is true, especially like considering that you can binge a show even when we're not on quarantine and on lockdown. But so yeah, like why not? The other thing was I really just loved the casting. This show to me would not have worked if they had not gotten every single character right. And one of the things that struck me when I first started, I was like, I love Al Pacino when he commits. But I was like, why would you cast Al Pacino, who is of no Jewish background whatsoever, as a Jewish character? And then the final episode happened, and I was like, oh, his very casting was a giant clue as to what was going to go down. Well, isn't that just brilliant? Because I was like, wasn't Alan Arkin available? Like, I could think of 5 or 10 people off the bat. Like, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. Okay. But then, and when the final episode happened, I was like, oh, you guys, you got me. You got me so good. I was so impressed with that. So let's just get into the spoilers. That final reveal, yo, was bananas. Let's start with Joe. Joe's about to have a really bad time. A real bad
He's
time.
with the children of the corn.
Holy shit.
God, they're so creepy.
It was so terrifying. It was so, the whole, like, I knew something was up with those kids when they kept showing them, and I was like, man, I had the same thing. I'm like, I'm getting a real Children of the Corn vibe here, and I don't care for it, at all. But then I was like, okay, well, I just didn't even think that they would kidnap Joe. Like, it never occurred to me that they would kidnap Joe. But then I was like, of course she kidnapped Joe, because Joe went through her people at that location like it was nothing. He cut through all of her so-called highly trained, superior Nazi Aryan nation people as if they were tissue. That whole scene, it's very rare outside of a science fiction show where you see somebody just straight up just murder everybody in less than 5 minutes. So what do you think about that?
So, yeah, I'm really scared for Joe. I'm wondering if they're going to try to like probe him in a way, try to brainwash him in a way. Um, I mean, that entire scene of him sitting at the table and then, of course, Hitler coming to it, I was like, no, no, no. Like, I was losing my mind.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we all love Joe. He's a strong character, a strong fighter. The team needs him. And of course, they think that he's fine. Like, they don't know what really happened. But I'm also wondering how they knew where he was when he left. So many questions. And just the fact,
Yeah.
I mean, they had it at the exact moment when he was about to cross that street. There's got to be eyes and intel that we're not 100% sure who it could be. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, thinking a little nun might be a birdie. I'm not sure.
I don't think Harriet is the birdie for that. She's
No, okay.
definitely working with someone else, obviously.
Mhm.
And that someone else has too much of an interest in Jonah for my taste, which we will get into later, because Jonah's whole everything is, his entire life is a lie. And I have a theory. I have a few theories, and I'm a little concerned. So let's go into, well, I mean, like, what the thing with Joe is, I think Ava and Adolf are going to, I think he's going to, A, train those little brats, and B, I think they're going to brainwash him and send him back as a ticking time bomb sleeper agent. I feel like he's going to wind up being sent back. And because, especially with the situation with him and Roxy, who were clearly falling in love with each other, she's going to welcome him back with open arms and not even think twice to question where he's been. And I think that that's going to be a problem. Especially with Meyer being dead. I mean, they pulled the foundations out from underneath that whole crew. I mean, that scene where Jonah's telling everybody that he realized that Meyer was the wolf, and Mindy just shaking her head. That all of their reactions got me, but Mindy the way she was just shaking her head and crying, that hurt me to my heart. That hurt me. So I can see them not even questioning. I can see Harriet questioning and possibly Lonnie. But I could see Mindy and Roxy and Jonah not even questioning, just being happy he's back. You know what I mean? So speaking of the team, they're going to Europe.
Yeah.
I don't know. And they're going to Europe, which ties into the Harriet thing. They're going to Europe. How are they going to explain Meyer's death?
So they're going Argentina, right?
They're not yet. It wasn't said. They said they were just going to Europe. They didn't say Argentina yet. Argentina is where Joe is.
That's where Joe
it's not clear that they're going to Argentina as yet. No.
So I'm wondering if there are more sectors of the hunters. If this isn't the only, if this is like, this is one particular group. Because of such the widespread of the Nazis in the United States, there has to be more.
It
There's
would be
more,
easy
definitely more
for it to be
survivors.
all over Europe too.
Yeah,
It would
and all
actually
over
be,
Europe.
yeah.
So
I don't know. I hadn't thought of that at all.
So I think we're going to see some other characters and more connections as well as different fighters.
Yeah.
And then over in Europe, certainly, same base is, I think there might be somebody there that might be even be able to rescue Joe or have a tip on it eventually. That's my hopes and dreams because I really don't want to see him freaking brainwashed or, yeah. I don't want to see Joe tortured. He's been through enough already.
I'm not here for that. I don't want to. She looks way too pleased to have gotten her little hands on him. I am, well, my biggest thing is they have to deal with Meyer's death before they go to Europe. And it's going to come out that Jonah is his grandson. Because for everybody who's not them knows him as Meyer Offerman, not as the wolf. So Jonah Heidelbaum is Meyer Offerman's grandson, and I have more than an inkling that 9 times out of 10 Meyer left everything to Jonah.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, that's going to give them the finances and the needs to leave. On the other hand, how do they get out of the public scrutiny? Like I'm sure Harriet can cover up him being murdered. Harriet is very good at her job. So I'm sure Harriet can cover up them being murdered. Roxy is also a fixer. So between the two of them, they can cover it up and make it seem like maybe the Nazis came after Meyer and, make it look like that, because there has been an incident, at least one incident where his car got blown up, and the FBI know about that. So they know that this happened, so they can easily cover that up. But they have to. Sorry, my cats are beating the crap out of each other currently.
My cat's trying to get in the door.
Okay, I don't know if you can hear that at all, but they are literally fighting, and I'm like, stop it! It's a brave new world. But the other thing is, I'm sorry, I just looked up and Ron's spraying them with water. Yep, just keep drinking, just keep drinking. I'm wondering how much they're going to be able to move. Now, I feel like on the one hand, I'm coming from this from a 2020 perspective, where Jonah being the orphan grandson of a billionaire coming out of the woodwork would be on every newspaper and all over the internet and but it's the 70s. So while there will be interest, I don't know if it would be as widespread as it would be now. Like, there's no way that wouldn't be front page news, everywhere in the pandemic, on every media outlet on earth, that, this orphan kid who's a genius, who's an actual genius, who got into every Ivy, like I said in the review, got into all the Ivies and MIT, is the grandson of one of the most famous Jewish survivors of the Holocaust. There's no way that everybody would be putting it plastering on the front page. But I'm like, now I think about it, they could actually get into Europe without people knowing, without Jonah's face being a giant red flag. But the question is for how long? How long will they be able to do that without Jonah being noticeable? Jonah might be their biggest problem, because his face would wind up being soon known. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you see how easily it is to make up a fake passport. And he's old enough to have some facial hair. So maybe dude's gonna grow a mustache.
Grow a beard. Or
a beard. A beard. I'm more about the beards, yeah.
Yeah, grow a beard. Grow a beard.
Yeah, so, little boy's gonna grow up with some facial hair.
I know. I mean, I feel like he's barely old enough to have any facial hair, but I keep forgetting that our boy Logan Lerman is actually like in his late 20s and not a baby, because for me, he was Percy Jackson for the longest time. And I just adored him so much in that role. And I'm like, no, he's a grown man now. He's a grown man.
He's still a baby.
Yeah, compared to our old asses, yes.
I'm not old.
No,
I'm
you're
just
young and youthful and gorgeous. I am an old lady, and I don't even care. I don't even care.
I'm seasoned and experienced.
That's right.
Yay, alcohol.
Yay, alcohol. I wish you could see the looks I'm getting from Ron right now. Anyway, so speaking to that, Millie. First of all, can we talk about positive, beautiful, interracial, lesbian representation on this show, with both of them being badasses in their respective fields and awesome people. And also the fact that this show, which, as I said to Ron when we were watching it, I didn't realize how not common it was to see Black women of different sizes and facial features and colors and hues all represented and all being shown that they were beautiful. That's right. Whether it's Millie or whether it is Maria or whether it's Roxy, none of them are built the same. None of them have the same basic looks. None of them have the same coloring. None of them even have the same hair. And yet, each one of them was treated with the lens of, this is a gorgeous woman and you better admire her. And usually in TV shows, you'll get 4 or 5 different white women who all are beautiful and different, and you get that one Black girl. And this was literally the complete opposite, because all we had was Harriet as the, young hot chick. All we had was Harriet. We had our older representation with Carol Kane and Lena Olin, because Carol Kane is still just cute as a damn button. And Lena Olin, and I actually was watching, I was thinking they had to actually kind of make Carol Kane look more homely than she actually is, because Carol Kane is genuinely a good-looking, gorgeous woman, especially because of those eyes. And they had to actually kind of dowdy her up more to play Mindy. And Lena Olin was just fierce from head to toe. Terrifying, but fierce. So I'm concerned who's going to get their hands on Jonah first. Is it going to be whoever Harriet's working with, or do you think Millie's task force is going to be able to get there? Because here's the other thing: Millie's task force is not just limited to the United States. They made a point of saying that. What do you think?
So with Harriet, I don't want to believe that she is on the Nazi side just because everything she's been to, they called her by her Jewish name, Rebecca. With that being said, back to what I said earlier, I think she might be talking to another chapter. I mean, they think that the colonel is dead, and I mean, if that person was actually not one of the Nazis, I think they would have known that no, she's not dead. She's very much alive, is safe in Argentina. So I mean, I think phone calls, especially even back then, they had to be cryptic in some way. And I think that person is going to meet Jonah when they go over to Europe. I think that's might be one of their connections there. That's what I hope. I hope it doesn't deal with the Nazis.
My question is, why the interest? But that goes into our later thing, because like she specifically asked about him on that cryptic ass phone call. And it's not the first time that Harriet has shown an unnecessary and unusual interest in him beyond, and also she tried to get him out early. So I'm kind of wondering how much, like there's two sides of it. She tried to get him immediately out of it. She didn't want him anywhere near it. But once he was in, she started paying way more attention. So I'm wondering how much of that is she knows who he is. Maybe she does know who he is and is trying to keep him safe. But now that he's in, he's in. What do you think?
So, I mean, there's been an interest with him just with his intellectual abilities. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that if there are others, they've kept an eye on him, and I'm sure they've kept an eye on him since he was a child. I mean, we do have questions about what his background is. So is he a pure Jew? Like, is
So,
there some possible evil mixture in there somewhere where it could link to a Nazi that's still alive and breathing? And that will just tear him apart if that happens.
that
Um,
is that is one of those things that the thought it crossed my mind. I'm really scared. I'm really scared for him because the thought did cross my mind, and I'm like, oh, because the wolf was a geneticist, and what if it turned out that he really was Jonah's grandfather?
yeah.
Yeah, and I'm so
And
scared.
why and both his parents being dead. I mean, are those just stories? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's I there's got to be a second season. Like they can't just leave us hanging with all these questions. That would not be
I have
nice.
so many questions. So do you think going back to Millie and the task force, how the hell did she even build it? Honestly, when she knows for a fact that these people have been embedded in every aspect of our society for at least since the end of the Second World War. How do you trust anybody? How do you trust a single person when they've been embedded in the society? They're in the FBI, they're in the CIA, they're in NASA. How do you trust? How do you vet a task force when you don't know who these people are? You know what I mean? Like how do you even? I feel like she's got such an uphill task. On the other hand, I feel like that means that we're going to get some awesome people of color for the task force. And I'm kind of really looking forward to her badass United Colors of Benetton task force. Sarah, what do you think?
So, I mean, just like the task force is being built with them and in the jail, I think we are going to see some awesome diversity all over. Like I said, in their town, Florida, definitely, because that's where a lot of NASA is. And then when they go over to Europe, I think it's going to be worldwide, the connections that we're finding. And as far as trusting people, I feel like back then research was very different and it
Yeah,
took a lot more time to build those trusts and those relationships. I mean, just seeing what they did with the coding of Morse code to a song, like
yeah,
I mean, and that's just the Nazi side.
yeah,
Imagine what they're doing.
yeah,
I'm sure there's just as intricate and beautifully done on their side. I mean, I'm sure that poetry, I mean, Noah finding the paperwork in the old recipe books, like just little things like that. Like,
right? That was so
yeah,
amazing,
that was,
so
yeah,
subtle.
yeah. I mean, he wanted his chicken soup, but yeah, I really do think that it's taken so much time and research that they know who to trust in their group.
I hope so because I really don't want to see Millie get betrayed from the inside. I
Mhm.
really don't. I love her so much. I also wonder how they're going to keep their families safe, both her task force and the hunters, because Roxy has a child. I can't imagine that she can take that child with her. I think she has to, but you're going to be going to Europe to fight Nazis and living from hotel to hotel and jumping from country to country. I just don't see that being a safe environment. And the child's father is a Black Panther, so that's not much better. So I'm like, I don't know what they do with her. And her kid was so cute. And I'm like, I don't want anything to happen to her little girl. Um, I, I just, how do they? I hope Maria goes with Millie
Yeah.
because going to like one of the next things that we wanted to talk about, Travis. Yeah, girl. Yes, exactly. He has already directly threatened Maria, straight up, in like the last episode. Then there's the fact that he was genuinely mad at Jonah for not killing him. He was mad at Jonah for not killing him. He tried to bring Jonah down into the dirt with him, and Jonah wouldn't go. And so he was genuinely pissed off. And he had been so, girl, can I just tell you? Okay, hold on. Let me go back a step.
Regroup.
How much I freaked out when I realized that he was laying in Jonah's bed, wearing Jonah's clothes, while holding a picture with Jonah's friends with Jonah and practicing Jonah's smile. I did not catch that the first time we watched it. And then I was watching it and I was like, something's weird here. And I stopped it and I rewound and I was like, oh no. And Ron was like, yup. And I'm like, oh no. And even in jail, what's the first thing he says? Jonah would be so disappointed in you for offering me a deal. That's going to be a problem because there is no way that Travis hasn't already figured out how to escape. He walked into that jail. He walked into that jail knowing he was going to know how to escape. So I am so scared. I'm like, the minute Jonah didn't kill him, I was like, we're going to have a problem. We're going to have a problem. And then
as long as he's alive, there'll be a problem.
Yeah. He looked genuinely pissed that he couldn't make Jonah a murderer, that he couldn't make Jonah get all nasty with him, that Jonah proved to be a better person than him. He looked so livid about that. And I'm just like, you stay away from him. You stay away from him, crazy Nazi boy. So what do you think? How long do you think it's going to take before he escapes?
So, I mean, Travis is already, he's building his army. He got their attention by killing his lawyer, which, of course, when he specifically asked for a Jewish lawyer, kind of knew what was going to happen.
Girl.
And I'm wondering his kind of backstory because his parents are like, what happened?
Yeah.
What is going on? How did you get to this point? So I'm like wondering, how did he get to this point where he is so brainwashed with hatred and bigotry? I'm just like, our nation. Anywho, but yeah, he's building his army. I'm definitely guessing by probably like the third episode of next season, we're going to see him like breaking out and he's going to have his orange suit warriors with him. And the fact that he got so mad at Jonah, I think it was because that plays against his ideals, is that he thinks you have to kill. And he somehow was brainwashed by who knows that is the only choice that he has. So that just played against his entire persona. And that did not shake well with him.
I really appreciate how they did not try to woobify Travis. One of the things that has been happening, unfortunately, a lot in media of the last, I would say, 5 or 10 years is characters, particularly male characters, but not always, but male characters and white male characters, again, not always, do horrific things. And then that character becomes popular. And so then, or even I wouldn't even say they become popular, but they do horrific things. And it's like they're given an excuse to be the fracking worst. And I'm like, no, it's not okay that Kylo Ren murdered thousands of people because he does not a good guy now that he's dead and never had to face the consequences for the mass genocide. It's not okay that, Cap destroyed an entire bridge and tunnel in Civil War and probably killed lots of civilians in Civil War. This is not okay. And I appreciate that with Travis, we're not getting that. He is unrepentant. So I would like to see his backstory and find out how, because like you said, his parents were horrified. They were horrified. I do think we got a little bit of a clue with the game show. Remember the game show bit? Do you have a friend who thinks that way? Or an uncle? Or an aunt? Or a grandfather? Would they do big time on this show? Would they? Which was terrifying. I think that we got a little bit of a clue because it's the microaggressions. That it's the things that you don't realize that you're teaching kids, that you are teaching them that it's okay. Maybe his parents seem genuinely horrified, but maybe they don't realize that there are things that they did that they didn't understand. They didn't realize were teaching him that thinking this way was okay. Maybe grandpas are raging racist, or maybe a low-key and polite society racist. You don't know. But I hope that they don't woobify him, because I don't get that vibe from Travis. Travis is who Travis is. Can he be redeemed? Of course. Any character can be redeemed. I mean, look at Meyer, who I honestly felt sorry for. There was that line, and I absolutely should not have felt sorry for him, which says a lot about Pacino's acting, to be honest. But there's that line he said when Jonah figured it out, when he was like, oh God, I thought we would have more time. I thought we would have more time. And it's like, when he was like, she made me want to be a better person. And living this way for so long made me see just how evil we were and the things that we did. So no, everybody can be redeemed. But if they try to do a redemption arc with Travis, I want it to be long and hard, and I want him to have to actually like really work for it. I don't want any, he felt bad, Wanda Maximoff style nonsense. I want to see him suffer for the stuff that he's done, because he has just blatantly murdered his way through the show since jump. And I will never forgive him for killing Arthur, for killing Jonah's best friend. No. He was brave as hell, yo. That whole scene. Oh.
That was heartbreaking.
So let's finish up with Jonah. Two things stood out to me, and it's interesting. Logan Lerman did a set tour on the Hunters on Prime Instagram, and he said, as you walk through the set, there are clues about the season all through the set. There are clues about this season, and there are clues about next season all through the set. Now, one of the things I didn't realize until I watched the set tour and then I kind of rewatched the show was that we don't see a single photograph of Jonah's parents. Neither of them. Every photo is with him and his friends, him and his grandmother. That's it. There's no photos of her daughter in her house. Ruth didn't have a single photo of her daughter in her house or her daughter and Jonah's dad. Also, why is Jonah's last name Heidelbaum? It shouldn't be. Ruth Heidelbaum, yes. Jonah's last name should be different. It's not. So who is Jonah's father? And what happened to his parents? What do you think?
So I think with his parents that there is that possible not all Jewish aspect, and that was not sought out to be okay. And I think ultimately they were assassinated in one way or another. Was it the mother that died of an overdose, they're saying? Is that correct?
His mother, I think his mother died in childbirth.
In childbirth? Okay.
Jonah's
Then maybe
mom,
the father.
suppose Jonah's mom died in childbirth. That's what they said.
So the father, he was apparently died from an overdose. I think that's what they said in the show. So
I think so.
okay.
Again,
overdose.
Overdose.
And then left in the care of the grandmother. So there was definitely, maybe that could have been a war on both sides, to be completely honest. I mean, the fact that the mother was bearing this child, they wanted the child to be brought into the world, but they didn't want anything to do with her because she had possibly dipped in the wrong pot, so to speak.
Well,
I don't see that because, like, I mean, we get barely any hints of like his parents throughout the show. We got more hints on the grandfather not being his actual grandfather. When you look back, it was like, okay. But I haven't seen that many, like, not many hints of who the parents are. There's a lot of, it's just a big question mark.
Very ambiguous. I think
like
whoever Harriet Backer is, I think she's his mother.
Who?
Whoever Harriet is talking to on the phone, I think that's his mother.
Okay. I want to take a drink.
I'm going to take a drink too.
That just blew my mind.
I think that's his mother. I think that Wilhelm / Meyer wasn't actually lying when he said that I am your grandfather.
Okay.
I think that because he had both the real Meyer and Ruth under his thumb, and he could have drugged them or done anything to either one of them, and they wouldn't have known for so long. They were in the camps for a long time, and he took an interest in them. There's the alcohol kicking in. He took an interest in them almost from the day he met them, both. And the fact that Meyer refused to kill him and stood up to all of his torture repeatedly, I can just see him doing something to either Meyer or Ruth. Because the thing is, they did a lot of genetic experiments in the camps. And I could see him doing something like that, especially with how obsessed he was with Ruth. I could see him doing something where, because she was pregnant when she left the camps. She was pregnant with her daughter when she left the camps. Based on the timeline, she was definitely pregnant when they were in the camps. So I can see him doing something to her without her knowledge, and her finding out but deciding to love this boy anyway. I can also see him doing something to Meyer, because there is a comic book and sci-fi element to the show that I can see him doing some sort of genetic splicing or whatever. And, because there is that comic book feel about the show, it's not based on a lot of people thought it was based on a comic book, and I'm like, it's not. But it's got that feel about it. And I think that's what allows it to kind of move in spaces that it wouldn't be able to move to if it was tied to real world. It's got enough real world stuff like Operation Paperclip for it to have resonance. But it also, because it is comic booky, it gives it enough of a leeway to do stuff like just and with Meyer. So technically, Jonah is both Meyer and Wilhelm Zuck's grandson, which would explain the unholy interest way too many people have in this kid. But I do think I think Harriet's backer is going to turn out, because it just struck me that her photo is not in the house. when you rewatch the show, there are no photos. Now, my Nana was Jewish. And if you think there are not photos, there were not photos of us everywhere. There's no way that there would not be any photos of her child in her house. So I don't know. I don't know. I feel like Harriet Backer is his grandmother or his aunt. She's Jonah's dad's sister. But I think she's connected to him by actual blood relation, and not just interested for the reason of being interested. So that brings us to our final question.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to tag on to that real quick. Not having the pictures there, that would make sense of she just doesn't want to even know what she looks like. She doesn't want to know what her daughter looks like for her own safety. And then she doesn't want anybody else to know what her daughter looks like for her own safety.
Oh my God. What if Ruth faked it?
Yeah.
What if Ruth and her daughter faked it? Oh my God. You just blew my mind.
Yeah.
What if she faked? I know, right? What if they faked her death because her daughter has been undercover this whole time? Mm-hmm. That would make sense with the Harriet thing. That would make sense why Harriet is so fully backed because there's a lot of money behind whoever's backing Harriet. That would make, oh my God, high five, virtual high five. Oh my God, you just blew my mind. What? So I guess it goes to our final question. Just who the hell is Jonah Heidelbaum? Who is he? And God, I hope he's not related to Hitler. Girl, I would cry.
What? Okay, so the children of the corn are like clone babies, is what I'm thinking. They're like little children of corn clone babies. So, how much do you want to bet that the father is some sort of little children of the corn baby, but it was before they really went Aryan on that bullshit? And I guess there might be like brown eyes just to mix it up and crazy with it. Maybe that could.
Jonah's got startlingly blue eyes.
That is true.
Got bright blue eyes. Like, and if Meyer and Ruth are his grandparents, there's genetically just pure genetics. The Brown should have overrode those, and they don't. Both fake Meyer and real Meyer, both of them did not have eyes like that. Jonah's eyes stand out because they're so blue. Ew.
He might be a clone baby. Ooh.
Do you think like maybe he's this is an Anakin Skywalker situation? Like he's a first generation clone, like his dad might be a first generation clone of Hitler or somebody like that?
Well, now I think so because they reference Star Wars. Yes. Now I do. Thank you. He's like Anakin, and I want to kick his butt now.
There's no throwaways in the show. It's been a lot of shows that I've been watching lately, like Westworld, to be as an example. A lot of the shows that I've been watching lately, there's no wasted lines. There's no wasted scenes. So if a scene happened, whether it's going all the way back to the first time we see Jonah and his friends in the very first episode where Jonah's like, Anakin Skywalker didn't grow up and decide to become Darth Vader. There's something happened. Literally, his first scene we see him in, what does he say? Anakin didn't just become Darth Vader overnight. Something happened to make. Well, he didn't say Anakin because at that point they didn't know because it was the first showing of Star Wars, so nobody knew. But he was like, Darth Vader didn't just become Darth Vader. Something happened. Nobody just grows up and becomes that dude for no reason. And so,
he also put in the fact that Darth Vader says, like, Darth Vader doesn't think he's the bad guy. And as the Colonel says, we're the good guys.
We're the good guys.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Yeah. And they genuinely believe that they are. But no bad guy, no true bad guy truly thinks that they're bad. They think that they're the heroes of the story.
Yes.
So now, see, man, come on. No, please. Oh, ugh, no. But I can see it because, like I said, I thought Jonah's coloring was really interesting because we saw Meyer, we even saw Zooks, and we saw Ruth, and none of them had blue eyes. None of them. Young Zooks had no blue eyes. Young Meyer had no blue eyes. Ruth didn't have blue eyes. She had beautiful eyes, but they were not blue. Jonah has startlingly blue eyes. And I'm like, oh, come on. Oh, show. And the thing is, this show is so messed up, and it would destroy him. It would destroy him to find out that Zooks wasn't lying, that he really was his grandson. Oh my God. And it would make him so vulnerable, which is the other thing that I said, like Ruth, as much as I loved Ruth, and Ruth was a badass from start to finish, she left Jonah so vulnerable to be manipulated by Meyer because she didn't tell him anything. And he had no other family. And so as soon as Meyer came along, he latched onto this seeming safety and this ability, somebody who would help him get revenge for her death. She left him in trying to protect him. She basically left him open to be manipulated. And I don't see that changing. Jonah has grown up a lot because of what happened in this season, but he's still a kid. He's still barely 20. Now, he's not even 20 years old.
Yeah, I think he's 19.
He just graduated from high school. When the show started, he had just graduated from high school. So he's 18 years old when the show starts. Yeah. And so it's been, 6 or 7 months in the show. So he's barely 19, maybe. Yeah. And that's one of the things, like, some people were like, why isn't he just listening? I'm like, because he's a kid. He's a child whose entire life has been upended. And he's found out that everything he thought he knew about everyone in his life was a lie. Everything he thought he knew about his grandmother, everything he knew about his grandfather, everything was a lie. Of course, he's not just taking anything that people say to him at face value, but also, of course, he's too trusting on an instinctual level. Of course he is. So let's wrap it up with, where do we think we go in season 2? These are the questions we need to have answered, but what do we think is going to happen in season 2?
So season 2, again, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more characters with the hunters. There's going to be a lot more hunters. There's going to be, wherever they end up in Europe, there's going to be different sectors. We're going to see, unfortunately, a little Nazi army being built in the jail cells with their little orange jumpsuits. We're going to see what's happening with Joe, and God forbid he actually does wind up getting brainwashed and tortured by Hitler. Yeah. I mean, there is a conspiracy out there that Hitler was not actually killed, that he was escaped. So
deaths, and this plays right into
it. We're gonna see the Children of the Corn, unfortunately, which are so creepy. I feel bad for these kids as like child actors, because it's like, dude, they're gonna have problems. Like, oh, I hope they have good parents that are explaining to them that this is not real. Well, not right now anyway. I don't know. It could be. I don't know. Who knows? We're in quarantine. This could be happening.
It's been real strange, y'all. 2020 has been strange as hell. Who knows?
I mean, there could be. We don't know. I don't know. I'm going crazy. I don't know. So we're going to see some Argentina, which is a beautiful country, apparently, with Nazi babies.
Well, a lot of that in real life, a lot of Nazis fled to Argentina in real life, and I still don't get why Argentina welcomed them. I still can't wrap my head around it, but that's a whole other conversation for another time. Go on.
And I mean, once they actually get over to Europe, oh gosh, who was the gentleman who slaughtered his family at the cookout?
That asshole! Yes! How can I
That
forget about Dylan Baker's character? Because he's a wild card for both sides.
Yeah, so he's in the USSR right now, is that right?
Yeah. And
So
he
I'm
likes
guessing
Millie.
he's just gonna keep popping up and oh, he makes my skin crawl.
He likes Millie. He actually really likes her. And I'm like, no, thank you. You're gross. Go away. Don't even look at her hard, you nasty ass old creepy Nazi douchebag. Go away. Ugh.
I hope they torture him and like drown him like they were gonna do that one guy and like ooh.
I feel like Dylan Baker's character is gonna keep popping up as a bad penny for both sides. He's gonna be the spanner in the works for the Nazis, and he's going to be an antagonist for the others because they were gonna kill his ass. The Nazis were gonna straight up kill his ass. So I feel like it's going to be a long-term situation with him just being just the worst. But can we just talk about how great Dylan Baker is in the role real quick? Because I hate him so much, and I love Dylan Baker.
He does a really good job at us hating him. Like
so much. So, what do you want to see? Like, I want to see Maria not die and also get fully tuned into what's going on. I want to see, oh Lord, what was the beautiful girl who Jonah had a crush on? Oh, I want to see there, because she's investigating too, remember? Don't forget that she and her brother were trying to find out what was going on too.
Yeah.
And they decided to go to that one police officer who actually listened to Jonah about what was going on with his grandmother's murder.
Mm-hmm.
So
how much do you bet they're actually going to help out with the police? But in this,
I love it. It was like, dear police officers, sorry to break up your regular racism, but we think that they're Nazis in America. Could you help us with that? And I was like, the problem with this whole sentence is it would be real life right now. It's depressing.
Not just the 70s or any time frame in the US.
Everything has nothing. In some ways, nothing has changed, and that's just it's just depressing. and I know a lot of very good police officers within my neighborhood and as personal friends, but there are a lot who aren't, and it's depressing to me that those outnumber the ones that I know that are good guys and girls. And I'm like, it's depressing to me that sentence could have been said right now, because we still got Nazis in America right now. I mean, literally, Charlotte happened only 2 years ago. And yet, and some things haven't changed, and that is just super depressing, man. I need to drink some more. Hold on. Now, no.
I'm empty. Well, I have like a sip left.
Refill! Refill!
I know. My phone is also. I'm going low on my phone.
I know. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up. Overall, we loved it. Season 1 of Hunters. I was gonna say Nazi Hunters. Of Hunters, but that's what it is. Of Hunters. It is very rare that a first season knocks it out the park. It's that so well. I can only think of a few that have done it. It wasn't perfect, but it was damn close. Hunters for me is a 4.5 stars of one of the most insane, brilliant, well-written, well-acted first seasons of any show I've ever seen in my life. And man, this is the kind of show that reminds you that we are in a golden age of television. What do you think? Same?
So, I will go about the same. I'm going to go a little higher. I'm going to say 4.7.
Okay.
Just for the simple fact that it's been a while since I've seen a movie or a television show where I'm ultimately shocked. where I'm like, I didn't predict what was happening. And the
Yeah,
season finale blew my mind. Like, I was in utter shock.
yeah,
Um, I I mean, just like any good-hearted person, I love seeing a Nazi killed. I think it's better than punching a Nazi or, it's just it's good wholesome family fun.
there you
No, I'm just kidding. There is the rating on this, so children, you're not allowed to watch this. Um, Anywho's bossy. Overall, yeah, I mean, there was a reason that I binge watched this. I again needed breaks because of the intensity of it. I am looking forward to the second season. I really am. I better come out like soon because we have so much time on our hands.
Yep, yep. And on that note, this is Belle.
This is Allie. Hi.
And we are coming to you from the social distancing drunk review. Woo! You can find us at PC Uncovered on Twitter and Instagram, popcultureuncovered.com, Pop Culture Uncovered on Facebook and Tumblr. Everyone, please be safe, wash your hands, and punch Nazis. Peace.
Bye. Da, 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 da. Are you done?